This is Bear With Us podcast.
Well, can we add girl? I mean, we aren't all manly like you.
Okay. How's this? This is Bear With Us, girl.
No. More like girl. Like a glitter bear.
This is Bear With Us, girl.
Perfect. This is Bear With Us, Girl, where we stir the honeypot with hot topics, body issues, the adult industry.
Fashion, news, pop culture, pup culture, and more.
From the bear perspective.
For and by the community.
I can barely stand it. Get it?
You're unbearable.
Wah wah.
And welcome back.
Now you got a haircut.
I did. We both got haircuts for non-existent Valentine's Day.
Yes. It's like, you know what? I'm going to care for myself. I watched Fatal Attraction. I had chicken McNuggets, and I splurged, and I paid the 50 cents for 2 more sweet and sour packets.
Oh my God. Did you see a meme going around that's literally just a heart-shaped box, and you open it up, and it's all just chicken nuggets?
100%. I thought, if anybody ever got me that, I will marry them. But, you know, I have friends that know that we have the show and all that, and the question is always the assumption is like, oh, well, he must have boyfriends left and right and all that, and that's not even on your wheelhouse. That's not even a priority for you.
When it's not even that. Like, whenever all the fans will message me, they'll be like, oh, like, I assume you have a boyfriend, or even on my OnlyFans, they'll literally, like, congrats to you and your partner, they'll say. As if, like, I'm hiding him just to, like, create the illusion of I'm single. I'm like, no, guys, I'm really that single. Like, this is not just me trying to get, like, extra fans. It's, I don't have another person. But the difference is, I genuinely don't want another person that wouldn't just fit into my life, if you get what I'm saying.
I mean, nobody really fits into our life easy, especially in L.A., dating in L.A.
But listen to what you just said.
Yeah.
If they don't fit easy, maybe you just don't need it. Like, instead of trying to make something work, maybe just you don't need it to work.
So let's say this. If somebody asks you out on a date, you just say no, or?
I mean, to get to that point doesn't even really happen because you have to be already putting yourself out there. Like, I'm not on the dating apps.
You don't really go out.
I don't really go out. And on hookup apps, my biggest turnoff is somebody that can't make a conversation. So if you just say hi, I already hate you. Because that's not a conversation.
No,
that's not a conversation
Teddy.
starter. Don't just say hi. Don't just say what's up. Like, say something like unique about either about yourself or me. Something. Just try something different.
So I had this complaint just moments ago before we started recording the show. It's like Grindr and whatnot. It's like, just tell me what's up, show me the pictures, what time, where, and blah blah blah. I don't need conversation when they start asking, oh, what do you do for work? Or no.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
No, that's not what it's for.
Yeah, but you have to understand, like, for what I do for work, I am always saying, like, fuck yeah, dirty, like, dick, filthy this. My biggest turn on is not going to be like, oh, you're sexy, you're showing me your dick. My biggest turn on is, oh, what was your favorite anime growing up as a kid? Like, if somebody asked me that, I'm like, oh, I'm hard right now.
You're going to get so many messages now like, anime. Okay, anyway, so you spent it by yourself.
I mean, I spent my whole Valentine's Day just restarting the Futurama show from beginning to end.
What's the drama with Futurama?
So it's coming back, which, everybody's show is getting a revival, because that's the new thing. Hollywood can't do anything new. It's just...
And shows are jumping networks like crazy, by the way.
Yeah, well, so this one's not. It's coming back to Hulu, which was owned by Fox, which is now owned by Disney.
Yeah.
Oh,
okay.
So it's not a new network.
Yeah.
It's still the same company. But the biggest controversy is last week out in, backstage and All Variety, there was an ad for a voice actor to replace the main voice actor of the show. But, the main one.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
And he didn't know?
No, so he knew because they were going in, negotiations. But basically, they're trying to replace one of the most iconic voices of the show. And especially when it comes to, nerd fandom, you don't do that. You can maybe do that, maybe with a regular show, maybe with a soap opera.
Yeah.
You cannot do that with sci-fi geeks. That's just, this.
Oh,
imagine
100%.
on Star Trek replacing Picard with, I don't know, Chris Pratt.
Yeah. Well, and the idea is there's supposed to be another Chris Pine movie, but he was not going to get paid enough. So they're like, oh, we'll make it without him. I'm like, you can't replace that version of Captain Kirk for the 4th film. It doesn't make sense. But on South Park, they fired Cartman's original mom, and then Chef quit because he got uncomfortable with the controversial stuff. It's like, bitch, you read the scripts before. Come on.
But quitting is different than we don't want to give you financially what you deserve.
Yeah, well.
You know what I mean?
you know, I know actors are crying left and right, and we're like, oh, they can still, you know, buy rent and then some, or, you know, afford rent. But incomes are coming down, even for some of the bigger name actors.
No, and that's true. And the thing is, it's more about a respect of the industry, because it's not as if the network is going to make less money. It's just that they know that they can try and poke and be like, well, how much less can we make you
That's
get?
exactly what's going on.
It's a power move.
Yeah, and we know that a bunch of the reality TV crew people were getting together to unionize because you want to talk about people in TV that get paid crap. It's the reality TV people. They're being told to work, you know, 14, 16-hour days without overtime, and they're making $2,500 every 2 weeks.
Yeah. On shows that are bringing in the network, the whole entire network.
That's exactly right. So it's crappy. And this is why I'm glad we're talking to our guest today, because we're going to talk about, you know, creating a show and like the realities of that.
The reality of reality.
The reality of reality. As usual, our show is brought to you by Cybersocket.com, the ultimate resource for gay erotica. And Cybersocket is now open for nominations for the next month. So you can nominate your favorite body part, movie, scene, studio, fan site, whatever you want. Go to cybersocketawards.com. And the awards are going to be at the end of May, but you have until March to nominate your favorite. And also, I want to tell you, one of the nomination categories is Bear of the Year.
Who also just recently lost, you know, Best Bear at the Gay Vienna Awards to somebody who is hairless. Not that I'm bitter.
Somebody said this yesterday, like, didn't Bo win for Bear? And is he a bear?
Well, even Jackie Beat, whenever she like read the nominations and he won, she even said to him on stage, she like whispered, she goes, "You're not a bear."
But I mean, we've talked about this. Is what is a bear?
I mean,
but I don't think he even identifies as a bear.
No, and what I actually got mad about the thing was, I'm not mad about me losing, because again, I've told you, like, I know the award shows are paid for, like, I don't care about that. I'm mad that it went to somebody who is hairless, because the whole point of that category is because, for example, if I were to work with Falcon Media, I could only film for Raging Stallion.
Yep, that's 100% true.
I can't film for Falcon because they've ruled that you have to be clean shaven. So the whole point of that award is to give it to a group that you literally have already marginalized and said, you're different, you can't even be in like half our films.
Yeah.
So
I'll let you know, Cybersocket Awards, by the way, it is nominee based, and so you go to the website, you literally click, and it tallies up the nominees. But that's the energy behind Cybersocket. Is nobody's buying their awards.
Oh, and I also want to bring up that we are excited to be a media partner for Bearworld Magazine.
Right.
Bearworld Magazine is now 9 years old and the only lifestyle magazine celebrating the global bear community in all its glorious, diverse beauty. Head to bearworldmag.com to check out the great berry content and also sign up for the new Woof Report. Woof. Their new weekly their new weekly newsletter packed with berry news and gossip.
The gossip you just heard here. It's like a dish. Right. I love, because we message only through memes. Like, yes. We've never had, like, a full conversation ever. And so I know, and I think I've said this before, like, what kind of mood you're in, or, like, we literally will just send memes, and that's our conversation. So, like, we catch up on all the cheeseman every time we see each other.
But, I mean, that's my real friendships. Like, if I'm sending you a meme, it means I like you.
Yeah.
Like, you and I have talked about, like, I'm not going to ask you how your day is.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care, and you don't care either.
Yeah. Oh, real fast. You know how we were obsessed with, and then Just Like That or whatever, Shay Diaz, right?
Yes.
So Sarah Jessica Parker was on Watch What Happens Live with Andy Cohen, and they asked her about...
Did they bring you up?
No.
Okay.
I mean, that's a whole other conversation. But they asked her, like, do you think Shay Diaz was funny? Do you think her comedy in the show was funny? And then so... Sarah Jessica Parker literally said, I haven't seen episodes 2 through 10, which is bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
So she's not saying. They asked Kirsten
M. Davis. They asked her, like, and she's like, well, I don't think it's supposed to be funny.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be like,
I didn't know Netflix was just giving out shows for just being, All right. You want to introduce our fabulous guest for today?
I would love to. Our guest today is Topher, who is a writer, producer, and queer content creator from Brooklyn, New York. His company, DaddyTV, is responsible for reality TV hits like Slag Wars, Iconic Justice, Hot House, and the upcoming X-rated NYC. Vulture called his work quality AAA-grade trash. He has his MFA from Savannah College of Art and Design, and he only mentions it because he's still paying it off. Please welcome our guest.
Topher in the house.
Oh my gosh. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Now, with your social media and everything, I just assume you've just been a Brooklyn boy all your life. Is that true?
Yeah, I lived in Pennsylvania for a long time too.
Wait, where in Pennsylvania?
I went to Westchester University outside of Philly.
Oh, because I grew up in Johnstown.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
My ex-husband is a former Mennonite from like Pennsylvania farm country.
That makes sense.
I used to call him Little Fag on the Prairie. It was great.
Totally PC.
Like we like to really set the bar low. That's my mantra. Set the bar low from the top. So yeah, no, I am very, very South Brooklyn, and I'm very Italian, thanks to my very loud family.
So you kind of grew up in this like loud family. Was like entertainment and like your style of comedy, was that kind of cultivated at a young age, or did you kind of gather that later?
Yeah, no, it started. So my parents are weirdos. Like that's kind of. I was very lucky that I got two parents who, although they were raised in sort of normative Italian South Brooklyn, like in a very Catholic, 100% Italian neighborhood, they were kind of the outliers. So, like my dad was a professional wrestler and a punk rocker.
Oh my God.
And he did all kinds of drugs and went to late night horror movie showings downtown. And then my mom was an artist and an early feminist and also an early witch. So I was like raised Wiccan. She was part of that like early 70s goddess movement.
So super conservative, super
yeah,
tons of
really
rules.
family. No, we had. I will say, I was lucky that like there was a balance, right? Like we did have, like we were like a traditional Italian family in that way. Like I wouldn't like talk back to my parents because either one of them would like smack the shit out of me or throw something at me. So
well, I mean,
it was,
your mom could put a hex on you, like
bury that.
Like that's a better threat.
Oh my God, yeah, no, there were times when like if my mother had an interaction like with someone in the grocery store she didn't like, she would come home and be like, "Get the sage. Their energy is clinging to me. Get the sage." Like very
dramatic.
Very dramatic. But no, like they showed us like John Waters movies really young, so the idea of queerness was not just something that was like fetishized through media. They had gay friends. I was being shown like actual outsider art. It wasn't just like, oh look, Will and Grace. Like that's
Yes,
the one gay experience, right? But you know, my mom still wishes that I think would be a little more femmy or like give her some more of that like ooh sensation, right? Like I think she would love a drag queen son. I think she would live for it.
How many times do you hear that? I've never heard it's like, oh God, if my son could just be a little gayer. Like who says that?
Oh yeah, she loves to when I bring boys home who are like real good at like setting up a charcuterie board. Oh God,
Oh my
she gets
God.
wet for it. She's like, "You did very good. I love him."
So basically, he's good at organizing snacks.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So how many boys are you bringing over? Are you currently dating somebody? What's going on?
I have a great boyfriend right now, named Henry. Who
I
I'm
love you
very,
said right
very-
now.
I know that
You
the
said
pause
right now.
That was very like, for the moment, he's great.
No,
Come on, Henry.
No, we literally stopped. You're gonna get me dumped. No, we just got back from Savannah. No, it's great. He's this is one of the better relationships I've ever had. I was in a throuple before that.
Oh.
Yeah, what the kids are calling a throuple, what my Italian mother called a huge disappointment. That one was not her favorite. And then I'm divorced. I was married for a couple of years there.
Really?
In a poly marriage, so it was, legally.
Okay.
We filed our taxes together, though.
I love you. Like a poly marriage, you're in a throuple, and you're like, look how many men I can disappoint at once.
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah. Well, see, the thing with that, people that don't have group sex often, I think, assume it's like very active. What I love most about being poly and group sex in general is that more than half of it is actually just moral support.
That's
So,
cute.
like, if one of your partners is getting fisted, you just have to lay back and be like, "Look at you go, tiger! You did your Pilates today. Jesus Christ, that is beautiful." And then they still have to buy you free dinner because I also try to date up. I am a sex worker at heart still, so you could buy me dinner and I'll lay here and watch you get fucked.
Now, when you say that you're a sex worker, when did that start?
Young. I started participating in sex work at 18, probably.
Wow, that's really young.
Yeah, I kind of went right into it. I was a child actor, and I will say there was always something up. Oh God, my laptop charger fell out. I'm sorry. I think that there was always something familiar to me in terms of like the performance of sex work and selling a scene. I think really always made sense to me. So I think even from that young age, I contextualized it sort of outside of intimacy or outside of sex. So yeah, I mean, I was a sex worker for a lot of years. I mean, all the way through grad school, really, and then I became sort of a full-time writer, and now I still consider myself a sex worker though because of the type of content I make. My company has produced sort of porn and erotic film in the past. We also make shows really focused on the queer experience, on the sex work experience. So I think out of solidarity, I don't often say like, "Oh, I'm a former sex worker," because it also implies this like, "Oh, I escaped sex work,"
Mhm.
and I don't think I did. I think it actually became more my career than ever, more my circle, or more my network, or more my
Well,
identity than ever.
now you're more. I'd call you like a sex manager, or like,
Or a
like,
pimp,
yeah.
sure.
Let's
I
just do
like.
that.
There's always funny when we like woke folks try to be like, let's find a new phrase for a word that's been around a million years. Yeah, yeah. I guess I'm like, yeah. I'm a sex curator. I'm like a. I guess I'm a media pimp. I like the whore. Like I'm a whore. I sell sex. I sell sex in multiple capacities. I sell sex in media. I sell sex in storytelling. I I like being a whore. That's like a word I'm very cool and comfortable with.
Now, do you feel, because I totally understand that energy, but getting into sex work at such a young age, do you think that you're desensitized to like the romantic part of sex? Are they two separate worlds for you right now? Or are you able to have those moments where sex is still very intimate and more about the
Oh,
relationship?
yeah. I mean, sex in my own life has always been extremely intimate. I'm also fairly kinky. My parents won't be listening to this episode. This is like, again, they might be open and liberal, but there's a line. No, yeah. I mean, I think also when you are involved in kink as a piece of your sex life or as sort of part of your overall lifestyle or identity, because of the negotiation of boundaries, because of the negotiation of your scene type, of your dom style or your sub style, or sort of the intricacies of how you're about to get off, I think it forces more clear intimacy. And I think healthy kink also requires such a pristine aftercare process that it
Interesting.
also forces this deeper connection, because just to participate in sex safely for someone with my proclivities, I have to be more intimate just to be safe, right? Like I am forced into emotional intimacy by nature of how I like to fuck. Um, so that's my answer there in terms of just like the kind of sex I like having myself.
Would you consider yourself, Teddy? Would you consider yourself very into kink or?
No, because I think people can get kind of confused with the word kink, because
I think it's different for people.
some
too.
people will say like, "Oh, I'm kinky because I like rough sex." Like that's not kinky. That's just sex.
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
not
it's like
kinky. Yeah.
I'm
No.
so kinky. I like to wear jock straps. It's like, bitch, that's not kinky. That's underwear.
Exactly. Like, and you don't have to claim a category just to be cool at sex. Like I tell people like I'm not kinky. That's just I'm not. Like
No, and you have a great sex life. Like that's the other thing. Like you to play with power dynamics is really like I'm talking about is to embrace a different style of sex.
yes.
And I know that I think this was before you started recording, but you were talking about like bottom versus top and how some people physically just don't bottom well. Like I am a big advocate and a big proponent that like penetration is not sex. Like penetrative sex is not the end all be all of a sexual experience. That there is so much more within a sexual spectrum, and like what we should consider fucking and what we
Yeah.
should consider sex is not just let me stick it in a hole, like whatever hole I get to. And then the way we rank holes always really fucking weirded me out. Like a blowjob is a different base than getting fucked up the
Mm-hmm.
ass because it's like a different level of hole. Like it's just really
Well, let me tell you.
stupid.
Let me tell
Like
you.
it's dumb.
Let me tell you this. I took a screenshot of this. I saw on the app last night. Down low straight guy who literally said on his looking for somebody to come over and suck on only the tip of my penis.
I've seen that more
and
than once.
you can't go past the tip, because if you go past the tip, then he's being gay.
Yep. I mean, that's stupid LA mentality. I mean, you get like all the bro jobs and all of that, and it's just so ridiculous. Or no kissing, because then that would be cheating on my boyfriend. It's like, really?
Well, and like, what an idiot! Because if you're just thinking basic anatomy, and another part of sort of my gig is I do a lot of like sexual health writing and intimacy writing and sex tips, but like the fact that you're cheating yourself out of testicular stimulation, of like the undershaft stimulation, the fact that you're cheating yourself of inner thigh stimulation during oral, like, okay, just get your fucking tip played with. That's not going to be fun. Like, physically, that's not going to be fun. It's like a weird barrier to put on your own pleasure and your own desire in a way that I just find fucking irritating. So stupid.
And I'll tell you, as somebody that rarely says no to hot, straight, quote unquote guys, here's a scenario. What happened is you would actually be there, whatever, and he'd be like, just the tip, and it would end up being more than just the tip, and it would end up being all much more, but because he said it up front, then he's not gay. But I guarantee you he wouldn't just have his tip sucked. I guarantee you.
So annoying. I have no patience for that, for down low, or for most gay baiters. I mean, Topher, what's your opinion on gay baiters? Which I believe gay for pay is different than gay baiters.
Why?
Because gay for pay is more willing to admit, like, I know that I am doing gay sex. Gay baiters are the ones that, like, pretend it. They're the ones that actually fake the sex. There's usually no penetration. They're the ones that also behind closed doors tend to use the F-bomb, tend to be very homophobic, while at least I've noticed the gay for pay ones have a better chance of being like, hey, I can't be homophobic. They pay my bills.
I mean,
but I want to know your opinion on gay baiters.
So I agree with you. I do think that like gay for pay people, performers for me, are doing a job and conducting a service. And again, to my earlier point about like stopping desire, like if people want to watch straight, like that is part of someone's fantasy, right? Or that's part of the context for that scene, or the context of that desire for a lot of people is watching a straight man engage in otherwise gay sex. So I think they're providing a service if they're doing it safely and they're cool. Like, I love you. In my personal opinion, would I say you're like fully straight? No, I would say you're probably on the spectrum of queerness, or again, you are queer just by nature of the word, meaning abject from polite society. Like once you become a sex worker, to me, you are queer by abjection. Gay baiting is a little bit different because it becomes gaslighting, right? Like once there is a intentional drawing of power dynamics that's not consensual, or once there is a knowing process of manipulation, that becomes really tricky and certainly dangerous, right? Especially if you're thinking of, a lot of people with neurodivergent folks, a lot of people with mental health issues, a lot of people with even just like social anxiety or social awkwardness, will often employ sex workers or OnlyFans creators to fulfill that level of intimacy. And I do always worry about care with clients that have more special needs, or who might not be as good at discerning things like, oh, I'm like getting taken, like I'm getting conned right now, right?
Yep.
Like those are the ones that they'll trick them into sending them money and forcibly, not like here's a tip or here's you're buying something. They're the ones that will literally trick them to be like, you have to give me this.
Yeah. And that's when it becomes deeply, like that's when you're being a con man, right? Like there's a difference between being a sex worker or a porn star who's being employed to perform on camera. And like just like a fucking scumbag loser fucking weirdo.
I want to know, in being in the entertainment industry as you are, obviously you have this comfort level early on with your sexuality, but did you ever make that choice that, hey, if I put this kind of energy and this kind of talk, these kind of shows out there, then that's pretty much going to stigmatize me in the entertainment industry, such as, hey, I guess I'm not going to be producing the next Real Housewives of whatever. You kind of had to make that choice. No?
No, I have an MFA from Savannah College of Art and Design, one of the top 10 film schools in the country. So, no, I could do anything.
Well, like,
I like choose to make this work.
No-
And I will say, I can't name drop yet, but like especially post Hot House, we are getting a lot of calls from mainstream media looking for this kind of sex positive, comforting, non
which
icky,
is
toxic
which is so
content.
Topher, which is so huge because, like, and I've talked to you about this before. You know, like, I live in LA. Like, there's many reality shows that are out there, but a lot of the reality shows literally have a morality clause that says you can't even audition if you are a known sex worker.
There is that. Now things are going away, such as we are seeing some mainstream reality TV people filming even videos or new shows with people that are from the porn industry. I think that has changed maybe in the last 2 years only, but
Yeah, a
before,
little bit.
and
It's recent, yeah.
Yeah.
And look, this is not to break my arm patting myself on the back, but I do think like a big part of that cultural touchstone was when OnlyFans took off. I think the pandemic really informed how we consume sex and media
Mhm.
differently. But
Mhm.
frankly, like Slag Wars was a big moment in
Yeah.
terms of saying, like, what if we made reality shows about real queer people or sort of told these queer stories differently? And I'm very proud about sort of the evolution of the work into Hot House and sort of the diversity in terms of not only race, age, and gender, but really skill set and talent. I think that the joy of Hot House for me comes from each hottie has such a specific brand and such a specific artistry that you can't really look at them and be like, oh, this is just a show about all the same kind of sex worker. Like, oh, this is just about like bimbo broads like being slutty. Like, oh no, like everyone has a skill set. They are all artists in their own right. And that's exciting. I mean, I think Teddy's a brilliant visual artist, right? Like I'm sure you've seen his paintings. Like
Yeah.
Teddy is not just a porn star. Most of the sex workers I know are full blown, fully realized artists.
Well, and I think the public, they want that kind of intimacy and they want to get to know the person behind. I mean, when I was raised on gay porn DVDs, it was all about the story and all that. And now it's like people are listening to podcasts, people are checking into Just for Fans to see what books you're reading that are in the back of your bedroom, where they want to know what you're eating or your workouts. And there's this intimacy that is now being celebrated with
Or
sex
who
workers.
you're eating.
Well,
Well, like, I always tell people, you know, imagine you were watching your favorite TV show, and then after the new episode premiered, you were able to go into your inbox and direct message that actor. How cool would that be? That's what, like, sex work and OnlyFans and all these things do now, is because you're able to enjoy media that you would have enjoyed nonetheless. But the difference is, after you finish, there is a little aftercare. Like, you can talk to that porn star. You can have a conversation that may not even be about sex, and that never existed before. It was just, you know, you were held so far away that nobody even knew what you were outside of just fucking. Now, like now, my fans, like, they know that I paint, they know that I do this, they
your
know the
clothing line.
Exactly, like, they get to know that you're a human, and I think that people are starting to finally start to look at sex workers as humans.
Yeah, and what I will say, and we say this in episode 1 of Hot House, but if you look at cultural appropriation, right, and sort of where trends and where style, where slang, where the types of stories we're telling, a lot of that comes from various sex work communities, right, or subcultures that have a lot of overlap to sex work communities. So this is really an interesting reckoning of sort of where the culture is coming from, and I think people being able to ingest that those two things actually do work in tandem, that sex workers are cultural tastemakers in so many ways.
I want to know, you know, you have also this longstanding career as a journalist. And I want to know, over the years, how have you seen kind of your assignments, your kind of stories that you've written? Have you seen more of that kind of even creeping into, like, the headlines that our community is reading? How have the story kind of energies changed?
Yeah. You know, I think when I started, the energy was very like, let's pitch sort of like Kiki, and I love Drag Race, but like Kiki Drag Racy, like high femme, Gagatron filled kind of pieces, right? Like they were very silly.
Like stuff safe for
And-
straight white women.
That's exactly right.
Totally, very that. And I mean, a lot of stuff too that sort of had to explain queerness to straight people. And I think there is this beautiful celebration these days of not just sex positive content, but sort of those intersectional intricacies of what make talent interesting and talented. So I have been writing about way more people of color. I have been writing about what sex work is labor, right? I think that there's a lot more nuance in terms of how we're having those conversations. And there's still haters, right? Like you're still going to get people saying, oh, you're hurting the community or sex work is dangerous. I mean, you're still going to have all of that. But I do think that people are coming to the table a little bit more ready to have those conversations.
Well, I know even some of the publications, some of the mainstream LGBTQ publications would never be able to book any sponsors if they had guys in their underwear or they mentioned, porn stars or anything like that. And that has shifted in the last year even. It's like, okay, well, let's just be honest of what our readers are actually into.
I think it also, too, like you mentioned earlier, I think it really was the pandemic because so many people had to actually go to sex work to survive. And a lot of people that used to judge it had a humbling experience of, oh shit, I'm sorry for judging it. Like I had to go into your career, and then I also got to learn that your career is not as easy as I used to always say behind your back.
There's a name that I will not drop. Exactly that. For years, it was like, oh God, now they're doing OnlyFans. Oh my God. Somewhat of an actor. I'm using that in quotes.
I know who you're talking about.
Okay. And then now it's like, look at my OnlyFans. And it's like, okay, well, obviously, you understand about the reality of life.
But you spent years shaming everyone
Yeah.
who was doing it. Yeah, like I've noticed that people who are now getting into sex work that you're literally like, I could literally find old tweets where you called everybody dirty whores, saying they're dangerous for the community, looking what you're doing.
Or I bet they're going to have to do OnlyFans. Like it's some like horrible thing. It's like, if I could make money for having sex from my comfort of my own home, that's the job I want, Jeez. So I want to know, what is it that you are watching, and like what TV shows are you like really affected by from the queer culture, from outside the queer culture? Because we know you for your brands for your show, which is, like I said, it's very strong. But you must have your off days where you're like, let's just watch some Golden Girls. Or
I'm guessing you were not watching And Just Like That.
I'm not. No, I skipped it.
That's not your version of New York.
I also thought that Euphoria was about a fake drug called Euphoria for weeks and weeks, and I just found out it's not. It's just normal painkillers. So I'm also not watching Euphoria. No, I love, let's see, what have I been watching? I love Albert Elementary right now.
Yeah.
Really one of the best written comedies on TV.
it's become a big hit.
I watch a lot of true crime. I'm going to be honest. I'm one of those, like I could go in for like a 6-hour Dateline marathon. I just watched all of Obsession, Dark Desires.
Is that like the Lifetime show?
No, so okay, let me tell you. Obsession Dark Desires is on Discovery ID.
Okay.
And it is specifically about stalking cases. And what they don't tell you is that it's actually really, really hard to get a stalking charge to stick. You have to do like months and months of research. So I like it because most of the show is the victims being like, the cops suck. Like when you're producing shows about stalking, it's like not super pro cop, which a lot of true crime is.
Topher, you know my situation, right?
You and I have chatted about. I wasn't sure if that was public knowledge, but
it is public that I won my case. But what's frustrating is he's already violated it, and so now I'm dealing with it again.
Yeah.
So
it's just this assumption that between two gay men, it's just like a joke. It's like, you silly queens, calm down, and where it's like literally a life and death situation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when it's like literal, when it's constant danger. So yeah, I like a human drama. I like a true story a lot. So I watch a lot of those sorts of shows. Pen 13 is great.
Yes.
Like really enjoying that every season. Aquafina, Nora from Queens is another fave. Oh, do you know what else is great? Quick shout out to Reservation Dogs. Have you guys watched that?
No,
yet?
I've not even heard of it.
Oh, it's so good. It's on Hulu, and it's about a group of Native American teens who live on the res. So like they're on the reservation, but it is not sort of a precious take on being indigenous. It is very much like they are real life teens. They form like a fake gang. They steal a truck in the first episode. They're like kind of fuck ups.
I'm in.
It's
Like in.
really well written, and it is a fully indigenous cast, which I love.
Oh, that's huge.
Love, love, love. So that's my other big shout out for the week.
So wait, what is the new show that you're creating? X-rated NYC or
Yeah,
documentary?
so we have 2 new shows coming out, which is very exciting. So we have one called Fucking Smart, which is a queer sex quiz show.
I love that.
And that's I love British panel shows. So I don't know if you guys ever watch British game shows, but it's usually like British comedians.
100%.
There's the best, right? Like
the
they're
best.
super fun.
Obsessed.
So it's that same format. It's Willem from Drag Race, and then also Sophie Anderson, and there are 2 team captains. And it's hosted by Sapphire from Hot House, and Juju Minx also from Hot House. And yeah, every episode we have cool sex positive guests from all different forms of media, and they come on and compete for a golden butt plug, which is sort of the big prize at the end. And it's really cool and really, really educational. It took me months to write that show. It is not easy writing a game show. And then we have another cool piece coming out called X-Rated NYC. And that's with folks you guys might know. So that's like Boomer Banks. That's going to be Dante Cole,
Yep.
Max Connor, Joey Mills. And it kind of follows them and their friendship through New York and through various events with Fleshjack, because they are all Fleshjack boys.
So how do I ask this like politely, but how hard is it to fund these kind of projects when they are so sexual in nature? It's not like you're having, Anastasia of Beverly Hills, supporting or kind of paying for that.
Sure. I mean, so first of all, we don't make porn for. I mean, our shows are on Apple TV. Our shows
Right.
are funded by Out TV, which is a great sex positive network. We love Out TV. I mean, their openness to what we want to bring to the table and the types of stories we want to tell, and their constant support, that's invaluable, right? So like they're the ones funding it. They're the ones sort of backing us and our big dreams to tell non-sex stories. And even in some ways, I think on Hot House, like we blurred nudity, and the network was saying like you could show nudity if you want, but because we wanted to show sex work as an art and as a business and as labor, and because our cast was not consenting to coming on to produce sex content with us, we did blur it when they did things like their striptease, or if there was a nip slip, or if one of them didn't realize that because of their outfit they were falling out. We went out of our way to protect people's sort of agency and bodies in that way. What I think is interesting though is we are also giving a lot of opportunities to cool sex positive brands that, to your point, vice versa, cannot go to even a Drag Race, I would bet, or even certainly not a Real Housewives or something, and say, hey, we would love more marketing and promo for Fleshjack, for men.com, for Tammy, which is an app geared toward queer femme women. So we're actually really fortunate that we have sought out people from within our community to stand behind our work and to help us by helping them. So yeah, I think it's kind of about really being true to your mission and realizing that if you find an audience for something, the mainstream will catch up, the press will catch up, people like networks will catch up to you. I go back to John Waters. John Waters was like making crappy, shitty, horrifying, disgusting movies with just a bunch of his friends. I mean, that's kind of what we do at Daddy TV too. We are a real ragtag punk rock South Brooklyn kind of group who I think we don't take no for an answer. And I think when we do have any pushback, that's sort of like, oh, what if it was a little more white, or a little bit more muscly, or a little less hairy, or a little less trans? We kind of just go into these very calm but very direct explanations of like, nah, that's not what we do. Go call Andy Cohen if you want something like that. That's not what you're getting with Daddy.
And that's what I loved about like the cast of Hot House is like when you look at it, if this project had been done by like say like a Bravo, and they're like, we're gonna do a sex positive show, it would have been all hairless, worded out muscle white guys and like straight girls that are like super tiny big tits and the same thing. Like this cast is literally all over the place, different like brands, different genres, everything. And that's what sex work is. It's not just the one cookie cutter thing.
Well, and like they said, there is something out there for everybody, and people are now seeing themselves represented on film. When I first got into entertainment journalism years ago, it was before even, Queer Eye, and it was like the type of person on E! Entertainment was like the perfect like gym bunny, white gay guy, and now we know that now it's all over the place, But going back to the advertising, I remember when Drag Race, I think this was maybe 4 years ago, had Boy Butter was one of their brands, and the commercial was very explicit, and people from our community got kind of upset saying, mainstream people are like watching this. How can we kind of build the relationship with them when we're showing this? This is not who the drag community is. It's not even who all the gay community is. And so I know people from our own community was like, we should be showing that kind of explicit stuff during Drag Race because that defeats the whole purpose of Drag Race reaching out.
I have a feeling.
Gang, my electric just went off.
I know. It's like, whoa.
And now I'm in this horrible, like, Blair Witch moment.
It is such an horror film.
I could be killed at any moment.
How did that happen? It's just like, oh my Lord.
It's not.
I don't know. Hold on. I do have a candle lit because I am a witch. Hold on. See, this is why y'all make fun of the witches, and then when the lights go out and we got our candles going ahead of time. Hold on. Oh
I would go
God,
insane if power just went out. I would go insane. It
Oh
certainly is a look. It's a look.
Look at this. Oh my God. Do I look better in this light?
Oh my God, your shirt, reoccurring witch face.
Yeah, it's like it's perfect. Right. It's like you could not plan that better.
I don't remember what I was talking. I was talking about like why we make sexy stuff. Yeah, so that we just stick to our mission, I think was my point.
Oh no, I think I know what Alex was trying to ask. Is like he's asked this question, and you already know my answer on it. But like about, do you think that as a way to reach out to the people that may be conservative or think that homosexuality is wrong, should we tone down our queerness as a way to bridge them and connect them over?
I mean, look, I think there are outlets for that, and that is not my calling. So what I won't say is that that's not valid work. I think calling people in is important. I think education is important. I think cross-cultural understanding and education is deeply important, just to sort of our civic duty, right, to understand people around us. When we're talking about media and stories, though, we want so there's two big pieces of the Daddy TV mission statement that I always stand by. One is daddies don't follow rules, daddies make rules. But also it's fuck trauma porn. So do I think that there's a place for like the Queer Eye for the straight guys of the world, right? Or the Will and Graces of the world? Yeah, I also think that that kind of media is important for closeted young people who just don't have access to queer stories safely. Right. So yes, that's important. What I will say though is once you graduate, right? Like once you become just a full-blown forever queer, where are those stories that no longer, like, you don't need explaining anymore? It's just your lived experience. And I think that that's always been the gap we tried to fill in for people. We all know the hotties on Hot House. We all have those friends, right? We all know what gay life is like in Hell's Kitchen or WeHo, right? On X-Rated. Those are things that we have intricate knowledge of. And I think that it is now time to, it's been the same for the Black experience in America too, honestly. Like if you look at what would be nominated for an Academy Award or considered sort of high art, it's like, the slave narratives, the oppression narratives, it's the white savior narratives that became really popular and sort of like the Help, put on this pedestal. Yeah, like the Help. But
that
now
should turn.
And I think that now we're ready for different, more nuanced narratives, and I think that that's the hole I want to fill, boys.
Because the funny thing about Will and Grace, that was the first gay character I was sitting next to my grandma ever seen on screen in any way, shape, or form. We had never watched TV at the same time and seen a gay person that all my growing up.
Well, that was my upbringing too. But like I've told you this before too, that like since that was my only exposure to queer life, I thought your only way to be gay was you had to be femme.
Yeah.
And I wasn't femme by nature, so I remember at that like young age, I purposely raised my voice. I purposely tried to dress different.
That's insane.
That was when I still would shave my whole body because
Wow.
in my head I thought, well, I know I'm gay and I want to be accepted by being gay, so I have to be femme because it's the only thing I knew.
And it's funny, and people love it, and it's accepting, and all of that. I remember girls would be like, "Can you be my
Like,
Jack?"
your best friend?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and it's
yeah.
like, bitch, that's not how it is. It's like your outfit's hideous, and I'm never going to tell you anything else. You know what I mean? But we have had this boom in LGBTQ stories in like major network TV where it's not a gay show anymore. One of the characters will happen to be gay or be trans or have a same sex. Especially the Hallmark Christmas movies this last year, everybody jumped on board, and now there's like 20 gay Hallmark, and I'm like, bleh.
So are you asking?
Yeah, we need more gay Halloween movies. That's
Yes.
my
Oh,
goal in life, honestly.
that's something that you would be good at, like a good
Oh,
gay,
yeah.
a good
Oh,
gay
fuck
slasher
Christmas.
film. Yeah.
Well, and like for the Oscars, we have Kristen Stewart, and we have the supporting actress from West Side Story, who I had no clue what was queer. I just don't think they're kind of like on this elevated actor level.
Mhm.
I just don't think that would carry over to the male category quite yet.
Well, yeah, and I mean, this is this is me being sort of a trash baby, and I always have been, and I always will be. But I always go back to like, who fucking care? Who wants to be friends with the Oscars? Like, I don't like. It's almost like my point about penetrative sex, right? Like, penetration is not the end all be all. I think if we like to live as a fully queer divine being, like you have to do that outside of the establishment, and you have to find sources of support that live outside of that world. Like, I don't think any of my work will ever win an Emmy because I intentionally don't make work that should be considered for Emmys. My work is anti-establishment by nature. So, I hear what you're saying, and I do love that kind of representation. Again, for young people, I think it's great to see. I just think for me, I always think like, or what if we just like fucking burnt the Oscars down? Like, what if we just like fucking didn't, right? Like, what if we skipped it?
Well, we know award show ratings have plummeted in the last two years. They've become a joke now. So it'll be very interesting to see.
Well, it's people are waking up and realizing an award show that is voted by select members of people doesn't represent me. So why do I tune in to watch people that I have no connection with pat each other on the back?
Well, especially during COVID. I mean, some of us lost our home. Some of us had to move back home. Some of us, didn't get through. And then we see all these rich people dressing up over a little gold statue for a film that probably wasn't that good.
And those were the rich people, too, that thought it was a smart idea to get together and all sing Imagine over Zoom.
Poor Gal Gadot's never going to get over that. Poor thing. She thought she was doing well. I'd be more embarrassed of that Wonder Woman 1984. Actually, that would be my embarrassment.
Should we take some listener questions?
Sure.
All right. So these are actually questions for you from our listeners. If you want to join
Wait,
in on
really?
Yes.
Oh my God, I'm so excited. Okay.
All right, you can do the first one.
Okay, so Stephen from email asks, my best friend has become a big flake in the last year. For every 3 plans we make, he cancels last minute on 2. It irks me. And also, I don't have a wing buddy for events. What do I do?
Sure. Okay, so 2 things. One, I always think that, and we talk about this a lot on Iconic Justice, because Iconic Justice is all about queer conflict resolution.
Yes.
So when we are setting boundaries that feel difficult to set, it's always important to lead with your value. So it is not a conversation of I'm angry because you did this, right? It's about taking ownership of what we're looking for in relationships and being able to speak that and declare that. So I always like to say things like, cool, here's why that upsets me. I really value promptness, or I really value knowing I can depend on someone. So when you behave like this, it sort of encroaches onto those values in a way that I don't really appreciate. I would also say, though, based on the sound of what you're saying, if it's like 1 out of every 3 times or 2 times, and it's specifically for like a wingman to go to an event, you might also need to like reevaluate how much you're asking of this friendship, right? if it is that you are only inviting them when you need someone to go out with, or if they now feel like they're having to do a certain kind of emotional labor whenever you go out, that might also be sort of where those flake energies are coming from.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's my advice there.
But I do love that COVID has given us the authority to be like, no, I'm not. I don't want to go because we could blame COVID, right? It's like, no, I don't want to go to the event. No, I don't want to go to that party. No, I don't. But I think now it's like it's okay to say exactly what you want to do or not do.
Oh yeah.
So maybe instead of making plans, this guy should also be like, I don't want to.
I just don't want to have plans. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just do what I do, and I literally will tell people no. And then the last round explanation, you say, "I just told you a full sentence." No.
I have had friends though have become complete flakes over COVID. And I don't know, so it's like,
just stop trying.
Whatever, yeah.
Yeah, I also think at some point you just have to be like, I'm like, okay, I'll go make new friends. Like,
yeah.
if they're not paying you money or like, who cares?
So we have one more question from Real Verse, who on YouTube asked, when I first started dating my boyfriend, we would share bottoming duties. We've been together for years. For the last year, he just won't bottom anymore. And now I'm starting to fool around outside the relationship.
Ooh, girl.
He said he just doesn't feel pleasure from it and hates it. So what's a verse to do?
I've heard this happen a lot during COVID
so many
couples.
Follow-up questions. Like, is it consent? Like, are they in an open consensual?
I think they're open, but I don't know if it was really by choice. It was kind of like, since he's not bottoming anymore, we kind of have to.
I don't know, because he says now I'm starting to fool around outside the relationship. So
I know it sounds very like
yeah, it sounds like
suddenly to me.
A guy's got to do what a guy's got to do.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this: we grow into different aspects of our desire. Again, going back to kinks, like kinks grow and evolve and change, and sometimes you want a dom, sometimes you want impact play, sometimes you don't. Like, you can't judge where someone is physically, and I also think if you can have those needs met and still maintain sort of the aspects of your relationship you do treasure, that's great and healthy. But if it feels like such sort of a burden where now you're like, oh, I'm unhappy in my relationship and I'm having to like cheat on him, yeah, again, I think it goes back to stating your values. Like, I value being verse. Can we find ways, a different position maybe? Can we incorporate more anal toys that maybe have a vibrating function if we're looking for different spots, right? Or if we're really wanting to stimulate your prostate differently. But also, again, if your partner's just saying like, hey, that's not the best way to get me off, I don't think you should be like bratty and pouty about it. And I don't want to diminish this person's feelings because I understand that's hard, but I also think it's like shitty to be with someone for multiple years and then suddenly be like, oh, you're not bottoming anymore. Like, all right, well.
But or is it shitty to say, hey, now that you're in a relationship, I don't need to try as hard, so I don't need to bottom anymore.
But is it that he's seeing? This is why I have so many follow-up questions, because like, is it that he's not trying, or is he just saying that one sex act no longer appeals to me? There's a whole maybe he wants to get spit on today. Maybe he wants to just fucking jerk off across the room from you while you like say how beautiful he is. Like,
I think he needs to do follow-up questions. He needs to do follow-up questions.
Yeah, because if it's just about, and here's my other question, and this is what I like, this is why like penetration is like such a funny, tricky subject, because what he doesn't say is my partner isn't getting off or I'm not getting off. It's actually being very hinged to this one specific act and one specific function, which again, to me, feels more like a power dynamic.
Okay. So it may be
more going on.
Exactly, that this may all just actually just be more about the emotional side and not even about the sex. That they're more, that something deeper
I
in
hope
this.
he DMs me. I think I'm on this person's side potentially. I do need more info, but I'm also, like I said, a very nosy person. So if you're listening and you want a stranger to talk to about this, bitch, I'll listen.
You're more than happy to.
Please DM me. I want to know it all.
You should do like a gay therapist show.
Yes.
And you should be the therapist.
Yes.
Like a sex therapist.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I'm serious.
Yeah. For sure.
Invite me on for more segments.
Yes.
I'll give all the sex advice you want.
So, where to find that advice? Can you tell our audience where you want them to find you and follow you?
Yeah, you can find me on all platforms at TOPHCUS, so Toph. You could watch Hot House, Iconic Justice, and all of our upcoming shows on Out TV. Depending on your region, it might be streaming on Apple TV or Amazon. So the best way to find Hot House specifically is to go to hothousetv.com, click your region or country, and you will be automatically redirected to stream the hottest show of the season.
Woo! Well, thank you so much for joining us, especially during your electrical outage.
Oh my gosh, this was such a delight.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you. I'm definitely going to watch X-Rated.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Me too.
Why don't you tell me where you
All right. You can find me on Instagram at Mr. Teddy Bear Gurrrl and on Twitter at the XXX Teddy Bear.
Woohoo! You can find me, Alexander is on air, on Instagram at Alexander is on air, and send us your questions. Obviously, we love answering them. It's bearwithusgurrrl 3 R's at gmail.com. And show us some love. We're growing the podcast, and so
Yeah, make sure to like and review.
yep, and all that good stuff. All right, until next time. Rawr. That has been another episode of Bear With Us Girl, presented by Bear World Magazine and Cybersocket.com.
Please take a moment to like, subscribe, comment, rate, all the love and support you can give, guys.
Questions, comments, and suggestions? Email us at bearwithusgurrrl 3 R's at gmail.com.
Until next time, embrace the fur.
Grrrl.